Devastating. Okay, so I completed this video yesterday, exported the whole thing, and then deleted it when I uploaded it. And I got an email today from Mary stating, "Hey, the video review is just a duplicate of 6 through 10," and I wiped out the old video. So I'm gonna post the answers to the study guide and just do a brief overview here. This will not be as extensive as the first review video, which is now apparently gone forever. Oh, unbelievable. Okay. So, what does Plato think is more important, the individual or the state? Explain your answer. Be sure to include 1 or 2 examples to support your thinking. He's going to say the state, remember, that the state is more important than the individual. And then any reform is really going to reflect this, or you can spin the reform to reflect that. So whether that's censoring someone's educational liberty, right, or whether it's not allowing someone to have private property, those would be examples. But you need to tell me why private property would place the individual below the state, right? So that's important there. So what you want to point out is that, if you acquired too much private property, then you would start acquiring property and make that your main pursuit instead of the betterment of the state. All right. What role does Plato think that education should play in the life of the guardians? He thinks it's going to form their character. It will be censored so as to make them not too excitable, so that they'll be a little bit more calm and rational. Does he advocate censorship? You betcha. For what purpose? The same as we discussed before, so as to form a certain type of character, and then discuss a modern type of censorship. We've got in there intelligent design, or the book burnings that took place in the United States. How does Thomas Hobbes characterize the state of nature? It would be nasty, brutish. Your life would be nasty, brutish, and short. A war of all against all. How does this characterize what he thinks the government should do, how it should function? Well, real simply, he thinks that the main goal of the government then should be to keep people out of a state of nature. Number 25, what is the prisoner's dilemma? So this is just a rehash of what we went through in class. It's from game theory. It's a situation in which there are 3 outcomes. Both parties cooperate, both parties defect, or one defects and one cooperates. In this last most interesting case, the payoff is greater for the defector. So this mirrors the state of nature, because there's going to become a time where cooperating peoples end up having a chance to defect, and they would do so. What is the game of survival we played in class? How does it relate to Hobbes' concept of a state of nature? So again, a little bit of a repeat there. You'll just explain that the goal was to survive. Don't expect number 26. What is a Leviathan? Why would Hobbes choose this as an animal to represent his ideal government? Remember, it's going to be the strongest animal so as to prevent defection. All right. How does John Locke characterize the state of nature? One of equality and plenty. He thinks there wouldn't be as much natural conflict. This stands in total opposition to Hobbes. What does John Locke think the primary role of government is? He thinks the primary role of government is to protect property rights. The state is a commercial one. And this idea is influenced by the fact that Locke thinks individuals in a state of nature originally own everything in common. When you mix something that is in common with labor, then it becomes property. That is the same as the answer for number 30. And then these are the passages. Give me just a second here, you guys. Okay, I got a drink of water. So, number 31, this is just straight up Rorschach here. I'm not going to read it. You've got it in front of you, and you also have a PDF of this. The important thing here, Rorschach is denouncing God, and his response to this blank world is to fashion himself after a principle of punishing evil and leave his design on the world. Kind of a narcissistic worldview. Because there's good and evil, and there is evil, this is also Rorschach, and he's just exhibiting his governing principle, which is that of retributivism. It doesn't matter because in 30 years the nukes are going to be flying like Maybugs. This is the comedian, and you want to identify it as Alan Moore. And it's a meeting that takes place during the formation of a second superhero group called the Crime Busters. He refuses to join because he thinks the world is coming to an end anyway. Here we have the joke that we went after in class. This is from Moore, and it just mirrors the central question of the watchman. Who watches the watchman? Who safeguards us from the people who safeguard us, right? And you can think of it, who laughs the laugher? Who makes the comedian laugh? Remember, this is relating to the time when the comedian shows up and he attacks Molech, or he talks to Molech and so forth. Okay, number 35. This should be very familiar to you. This is Plato, his critique of Cephalus's notion of justice, that it should be universal. Remember, and this is a counterexample, a case where it's not universal. Number 35, the debt of friend to friend. You should think of Polemarchian notion of justice. You'd help your own and you'd hurt others. It also contains the criticism of Polemarchian justice, so don't zip through it too quickly. And that criticism is that we are often wrong about who our friends are and who they are not. I say justice is simply the advantage of the stronger. That is Thrasymachus, and he thinks that justice is something that is just the advantage of the stronger. And an example of that would be the tax code. Seated in his company. Okay, this should ring out to you. This should be the ring of Gyges. This is Plato's older brother Glaucon, and this is central. It is a myth that is central to the Republic, mainly why do you act justly? Number 39, also the ring of Gyges, similar answer. Number 40, this might fool you because everyone would be his own watchman. Well, the answer there is this is Plato, and it's just a summary of why Plato thinks you should be acting justly and what the ideal state or individual would look like. Everyone would have the ability to restrain him or herself. Shall we then permit This is Plato. He is discussing the guardians. And he's concerned that early exposure to sort of radical elements would pollute or distort the character and or mind or the soul of young people. What kind of lie? Again, this is Plato's noble lie. This becomes very important later in the course, but the idea seems to be a utilitarian one, mainly that it would be the greatest good for the greatest number if we founded the state on a lie. That's okay, provided a number of people benefit from it. In the first place, no one should possess any private property. This is Plato's notion of private property in an ideal state. It would prevent people from accumulating possessions at the expense of others. Number 44, this is just a well-worn quote concerning handling or touching gold and silver by the guardians. Number 45, there will be no end. This is Plato discussing the philosopher king. Number 46, there is no such place for industry. This reads like a zombie movie. It should. And this is just Hobbes, right? And he's talking about how difficult it would be. In fact, it would be impossible for anyone to have letters or knowledge or time, knowledge of time. It would just be a brutal, short, and harsh existence. Here we are, the final cause, blah, 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 or end or design of men is of getting themselves out from that miserable condition of war. You should automatically think of Thomas Hobbes. Namely, people form a government to keep them safe. He that is nourished by the acorns. Anytime you see acorns, you should be thinking John Locke. He's discussing his labor theory of property. And lastly, gold and silver may be hoarded up without injury to anyone. And this is also John Locke. But the important thing to remember about this quote, of course, is that it undermines the notion of equality in a state of nature. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry this is super short. I literally had one that went through every single question, but it got erased. So hopefully this will be of some use to you, but I'm also posting my model answers here. So that should be helpful to you.